All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that gets a lot of people talking and, frankly, a lot of people worried. The real connection between testosterone and losing your hair.
So this is the big one, right? This is the question on everyone's mind, especially if you're thinking about something like testosterone therapy. I mean, it seems to make sense. More of the main male hormone must equal more male pattern baldness. But as you're about to see, it's not quite that simple.
Well, it turns out that's one of the biggest myths out there. Blaming testosterone directly for hair loss is a bit like blaming the cow for the burger. Yeah, it's a crucial part of the process, but it's not the final product that's actually causing the problem. The real culprit is another hormone, one that's way more powerful.
And that brings us to the main character in this whole story, a hormone called dihydrotestosterone, or just DHT for short. If you want to get to the bottom of hair loss, this is the molecule you really need to understand.
So what is this stuff? DHT is an androgen, just like testosterone, and it's super important for a lot of male characteristics. But, and here's the catch, it has a major dark side when it comes to your hair. For people who are genetically prone to it, DHT is the hormone that attacks hair follicles, making them shrink until they just stop growing hair.
So how does your body make it? It's actually a pretty simple chain reaction. You've got testosterone floating around in your system. Then an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase shows up and acts like a factory foreman, basically transforming that testosterone into the much stronger, much more aggressive DHT.
And you can see the difference right here. Testosterone is busy doing its thing, helping with muscle, bones, libido. But DHT, it's way more potent. It latches onto the receptors in your hair follicles much more tightly, and it hangs on for a lot longer than testosterone does. It's this super strong bond that causes that shrinking process we call miniaturization. But here's the absolute key to this whole thing. DHT might be the bullet, but your genetics pulls the trigger. You could have tons of DHT in your system and still have a full head of hair, but only if your hair follicles aren't genetically programmed to be sensitive to it. At the end of the day, it really does come down to the DNA you inherited.
Okay, so let's connect the dots. How does all this apply to something like testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT? If you're adding more testosterone, which can then become DHT, does that mean TRT is going to make you go bald?
Well, you might be surprised to hear this, but this quote from a top-tier medical journal is pretty clear. They flat out say there's no data showing that TRT speeds up male pattern baldness. So, based on the evidence, it's not a direct cause. But, and this is a big but, there's an important piece of nuance we have to talk about. And this is that nuance. While TRT doesn't give you the hair loss gene, it does flood your system with more testosterone. Think of it like a factory. TRT isn't building the factory, but it is delivering a whole lot more raw material to the loading dock for that 5-alpha reductase enzyme to work with.
So let's just boil it down to the essentials. TRT does not cause hair loss. It can't give you the genes for it. But if you already have those genes, TRT can absolutely act like gasoline on a fire. It can make the hair loss that was probably going to happen anyway happen a lot faster. It's speeding up the timeline, not writing the story from scratch.
So that naturally leads to the next big question: if this is happening, or you're worried it might, what can you actually do about it? The good news is there are a bunch of well-researched ways to fight back.
The main battle plans fall into a few camps. You've got the heavy hitters, meds that block that 5-alpha reductase enzyme, basically cutting off DHT production at the source. Then you've got growth stimulants, which work to keep the follicles alive and kicking. And of course, you've got all the supportive stuff, like lifestyle choices and other cool therapies that can help.
But for this explainer, I want to zoom in on one area that's getting a ton of attention right now, and for good reason: topical finasteride. The whole idea is to get the benefits of blocking DHT, but with a much lower risk of side effects.
The logic here is it's just plain smart. When you take a pill, it goes everywhere in your body, which is where side effects can pop up. But hair loss is a local problem, right? It's happening right there on your scalp. So why treat your whole system for a problem that's happening in one specific spot? It makes so much more sense to apply the fix directly where you need it. And when you look at the research, the results are pretty incredible. Study after study shows the same thing. Topical finasteride works. It slows down hair loss, it increases hair counts, and the results are often just as good as the pill. But here's the kicker. The side effect profile is ridiculously clean. We're talking almost no systemic side effects reported. That's a huge deal. And check this out. This chart just drives the point home. After only 1 week, the topical solution dropped DHT levels in the blood by about 72%.
Get this, in this particular study, that was actually better than the standard 1 milligram oral pill. It just shows you how powerful a targeted approach can be.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. What's the bottom line? What's the one thing you really need to walk away with today? It all comes down to understanding that it's a tag team between your hormones and your own personal genetic code.
So let's recap the real story one last time. Number 1, it's DHT, not testosterone. That's the real driver of hair loss. 2, your genes are king. They call all the shots on how sensitive you are. 3, TRT is an accelerator, not a cause. And 4, there are great treatments out there, and the topical options look incredibly promising for getting results without the side effects.
And so all of this really leads to a very personal question for anyone out there. It's a balancing act, right? How do you weigh the massive benefits of hormonal health against your own personal goals for how you want to look? There's no single right answer, but the good news is, now you've got the real story to help you make the best call for you. Thanks for tuning in.